All right, today we are diving into one of the most intense and honestly consequential reigns in all of ancient history, King Manasseh of Judah. His story, pulled right from the book of 2 Kings, is just a chilling look at leadership, legacy, and what can happen to an entire nation. Okay, let's get into it.
First, I want to start with just a number, 55. That's how many years Manasseh was king of Judah. It is the longest reign in the kingdom's entire history. Longer than David, longer than Solomon. 55 years is an incredible amount of time to shape a country.
And that incredible length of time raises the huge question, doesn't it? With 5.5 decades on the throne, how did this one king's leadership end not in some golden age, but with a prophecy of complete and total annihilation? That's the mystery we're going to try and unpack here. Now, to really understand Manasseh, you have to understand the kingdom he was handed. See, his father's legacy cast a very, very long and very different shadow over that throne.
So, check out this contrast. Manasseh's dad, Hezekiah, was this famous reformer. He went through and basically purged the whole kingdom of idol worship. So, Manasseh didn't inherit a mess. He inherited a stable, religiously unified nation. But, and this is critical, he was only 12 years old when he took the throne. And let's be real, at that age, a king isn't really ruling. He's being influenced big time by the powerful people in his court.
And what happened next is so important because Manasseh didn't just kind of let his dad's reforms fall by the wayside. No, he launched this systematic, aggressive campaign to reverse everything, and I mean everything, Hezekiah had accomplished. The source text is just brutally direct about it. This wasn't some slow slide into chaos. It was a deliberate rebuilding of the very idol worship sites his father had torn down. It was an immediate, intentional trashing of his father's legacy.
And what exactly was he building? Well, the text mentions he made a grove, which is a reference to an Asherah pole. And you have to understand, these weren't just some decorative statues. They were central symbols for Canaanite fertility worship. So the point here is crucial. This wasn't about slightly different religious ideas. This was about re-importing completely foreign religious systems, lock, stock, and barrel.
To put this all into perspective, the text directly compares Manasseh to King Ahab of Israel. Now, for anyone who knows the history, that is a jaw-dropping comparison. Ahab wasn't just some bad king. He was the absolute poster child for idolatry. His reign was basically defined by corruption. So the text is saying Manasseh made things in Judah just as bad as they were under Ahab, if not even worse.
But Manasseh didn't just stop at rebuilding some old pagan sites out in the countryside. Oh no, his rebellion went right for the heart of the kingdom's faith, to its most sacred, most untouchable space. This is where the desecration just hits a whole new level. He built altars to the host of heaven. We're talking astrological gods, the sun, the moon, the stars. And he built them not just in Jerusalem, but inside the very courtyards of the Lord's temple. This was supposed to be the one place on earth that was God's dwelling, and Manasseh basically turned it into a hub for pagan worship.
And then the text reports something that's almost unthinkable. Manasseh practiced child sacrifice. The source says he made his son pass through the fire, which was a horrific practice associated with foreign gods like Molech. This represents an absolute moral and spiritual rock bottom.
And right alongside all this, he went all in on the occult. The text literally lists it out. He practiced divination, he used enchantments, he consulted with mediums and psychics. He wasn't just tolerating the stuff. He was the one leading the nation into it. So decades of this kind of behavior, well, it couldn't go unanswered. The story now pivots from the king's actions to the divine reaction, and it's a prophecy of judgment, not just against Manasseh, but against the entire nation he had so thoroughly corrupted. So you have to wonder, right? What happens when a nation's leadership steers it so far off course for so long? What could the divine response possibly be to this kind of profound, sustained corruption? The answer comes in one of the most visceral, unforgettable metaphors in the entire text. The judgment is going to be like wiping a dish clean, a total, complete scouring, and then turning it upside down. There is zero ambiguity there. It is an image of utter removal, of starting over from absolutely nothing.
The verdict was clear, and it was final. Because of the sins of Manasseh, Jerusalem and the entire kingdom of Judah would be handed over to their enemies. The people would become prey, and the nation's fate was sealed. The damage was just too deep. It couldn't be undone.
But just when the story seems to have this simple, really dark ending,
Another historical account adds this fascinating, really complicated twist.
You see, while the book of 2 Kings focuses squarely on Manasseh's sin and the judgment that followed, another account, in 2 Chronicles, tells a different side of the story. It says that late in his life, Manasseh was captured by the Assyrians, and in that moment of desperation, he humbled himself and actually repented. This difference probably comes down to the author's goals. 2 Kings is explaining why the nation was destroyed, focusing on those irreversible sins. 2 Chronicles, on the other hand, seems to be focused on the idea that personal repentance is always possible. Now, that doesn't erase the national judgment, but it adds this incredible layer of personal redemption that really complicates his legacy.
And that just leaves us with this final, powerful question. Manasseh's story shows how one leader's long reign can corrupt and condemn an entire nation. But his personal story also hints that repentance is possible. So it forces us to ask, can a nation ever really recover from the damage done by its leaders, even if that leader has a change of heart? Can that dish, once wiped clean, ever truly be set right again?